What's up guys, welcome to part 3 of our little barrier prop tutorial. This should be the final part where we're going to go into Substance Painter and actually texture up our wee model we made in parts 1 and 2. So I'm going to go over to my software view here and just give you a look. Here's a little mock-up I made. This will be something like what we're going to create. And I'll show you the different techniques that we use to make that. So I'm just going to reset this now. I'll show you how to import your file. So just close that one, we'll get rid of that. So we actually, in the last video, did we actually export? I don't think we export it in the last video, but I have shown you how to export before. In 3D Studio Max, if you just select over your objects, go to File, Export Selected, and then choose FBX, you'll be able to export out your model as an FBX file that we can open in Substance Painter. I don't think I covered it in the video. I can't remember. That was yesterday. My memory doesn't span back that far. Anyway, so we'll go to New, and we'll get this window up. We're going to go leave this as it is, PBR Metallic Roughness. That's what it should default to. That's what we're going to keep it as. File, this is the mesh we're going to load in. So we're going to open this up, and we're going to find our little mesh that we worked on yesterday. Prop barrier. I think I did export this on video actually, now I think on it. Leave that there. Document resolution, we're going to bump this up to 2048. Depending on your project or the console you're outputting to, you'll want different texture sizes, but it's always best to start big and then we can shrink it down later. If you start small, you can't really make it bigger. If you start big, you can make it smaller. So we'll start at 2048. I'll just hit OK, and we'll see it loads up here. So there we are. Everything's come in nicely. No problems with the mesh or anything like that. That's nice. We'll see we've got our two views here. We've got our flattened UV and the mesh itself. First thing we want to do is back in our mesh maps before we actually start texturing out of them. So if we go down here to this window here called Texture Set Settings, scroll down to the bottom of it, and we have a little option here. Let me see if we can just pull it out, called Back Mesh Maps. It's just a little button. You see we've got all of these slots. These are all slots for different kinds of maps that would go into your game engine for doing different things. We'll not use every one of them. There's only certain ones that get used. But if we go into Back Mesh Maps here, it'll fill these slots automatically for us. So Back Mesh Maps, output size 1024. We can leave these at 1024 because these are kind of less detailed maps. That's fine. The only option we really need to hit here is this one. Use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. And I'll explain what that's doing while we actually do it. So I'm just going to hit back material meshes here. And what we can do is we can make a really high poly version of this and project those high poly details onto the low poly version that's going into our game. And that's a really common methodology for games. So if you have a character model in particular, say you've got like a wrinkly old face, we'll not model out every one of those polygons to make all the wrinkles. It'll be, we'll make a high poly version and then we'll project those wrinkle details onto the low poly mesh. It'll still look 3D, but it's actually flat and we're just playing with the light and stuff. But on a little simple prop like this, we don't need a high poly mesh. So we'll just say use the high poly mesh as the low poly mesh in order to generate some of those details. And what that'll do is, you can see here it's filled in those maps and things. The most important one really would be what's called the ambient occlusion, maybe your curvature map. And what the ambient occlusion does is gives you some wee shadows in here. So if I go in here, you'll see when you do this, it'll add some wee shadows and stuff just in here where the light isn't quite hitting, things like that. I've just noticed I've actually left out some of my smoothing here, but I'll not worry too much about that. So okay, what I want to do now is actually start painting this thing and start add some detail to it. So I'm just going to put a bit more room onto my 3D mesh view here. And what I want to do is I'm going to use some of my smart materials. I'm not going to really make any materials for this. I'm going to keep it quite easy. So between materials and smart materials, Substance Painter has a lot of pre-made stuff. I think it's in smart materials. We're making a plastic barrier, so I'm just going to search plastic. And we have a couple of different types of plastic here. Plastic used up shiny, plastic matte. If we're going for kind of a construction site feel, kind of an industrial, we don't want to use anything like the glossy. I think this plastic mat was the one I used my little mock-up there. So just going to drag that onto my mesh, and you see what happens here in the layers tab. It adds that plastic mat material at the top of the stack, and you notice there's a little folder. If we open this up, there's actually a couple of different layers in there. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the different layers. The only thing I'm going to do is come down to this one here. It says plastic base, and this is kind of our base color for that mesh. And when I select that, I can come up here to my properties, and we've got our base color here. Just going to select that, and I'm going to make it something a bit more, get more of that industrial feel, maybe a nice rich orange. We touch more red on there. Yeah, that'll do. Lovely, 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 lovely. So what I want to do is I want to have orange, orange pillars here, but I want other bits to be white. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to just right click and duplicate this. Where are we? Duplicate layers. There we go, and it gives us that. And I'm not going to worry about renaming it, but I'm going to click in here to that same plastic base layer. I'm going to change the color to white now. Maybe just off-white, maybe a sort of slight grey. There we go. So now I've got a white and an orange layer, but because the white's on top, we can only see the white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on this little button, add black mask, and what a mask does is it hides the layer, and then a black mask will hide stuff. You'll see it's added this little thumbnail here. Is that the right thing? Is it added to the right place? No, I don't think it's added to the right place actually. No, I don't want it to add just to that plastic base layer. Go ahead, close that up, make sure you're in the top layer here, and add black mask. There we go. Black mask, what does it do? It'll hide it. It doesn't delete it, it just hides it. Black hides stuff, white reveals stuff. So now if I take my pen tool and I set my color up here to white, you see grayscale here, grayscale uniform color. We can just go between black and white. If I paint that on, the white gets revealed. But I don't want to paint it manually because that's a bit messy. What I'm going to do is go to my fill tool here, polygon fill, and I'm going to select UV chunk fill. And what UV chunk fill is, it sees each of these as its own individual wee island. This is what's called a UV chunk. Any of these wee separate groups of polygons. And what I can do is I can just click on these. So for example, I want the bottom here to be white. So if I click on that, you will see, yep, that corresponding chunk has been turned white. And if I click here, you see that one turns white. Doesn't matter which side we go on here, we can click on the mesh or on the UV. I find it easier to do it on the UV, but entirely up to you. So we click that, and we'll click the back side as well. I think I want these wee top bits to be white. And just make sure you click all the relevant bits there. That'll do. Just make sure I get these little base sections. Come underneath, get those, they're both white. That's looking not too bad now. And what I also want to do is I want to put little reflectors on here. And how I will do that, I will look for another material called glass, and we have one called glass visor. Now it's not a perfect material for this, but just to do a wee quick tutorial, I'm not going to go into making custom materials. I'm just going to drag this on top, and you see we get this shiny glass material. And obviously I don't want that to cover everything, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add a black mask to this, so it hides it completely. And with our little mask selected, we are just going to fill again with element fill, or UV chunk fill, sorry. We're just going to select this little element here, and this little element here, those kind of reflective lights. So that's good, but what I want to do is change it from that bluish colour. If we just open that folder, we go into our base, it's that blue colour, and we'll just change that to kind of a yellowy sort of reflective colour. How's that looking? I think that's grand. Yeah, that'll do perfect. Lovely. And what we can do is we can add some texture to this as well to give it that kind of textured feel. So we want to add some detail to this now. First thing I want to do, I want to add some stripes to this barrier here, kind of warning stripes. So I'm going to go up to the very top here, I'm going to collapse all these layers down, and I'm just going to click this little third icon here, just add new layer. This just adds a blank layer that we can paint on, do whatever we want. I'm going to double click on that and call it stripes. And if I choose my pen tool, and I come into my properties and I scroll down here, where do I want to go? Scroll up actually to where it says alpha. I'm going to click on this, and actually no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to click the alpha. I'm going to click on stencil. And I'm going to choose a stencil here, and I'm going to choose one called line stripes. This is the one I want. It's kind of your typical warning stripes. And when I put that on, you'll see I've got a little stencil that's appeared here. And as I move my mesh around, if I was to paint on this now, let me see, just take a random color here. If I paint now, it will only appear where that stencil is. No matter where I paint, it's only appearing on that stencil. So it's pretty handy if you want to place something, but it's not quite the right size, it's not quite the right shape. So I'm going to try and line this up just as well as I can. And then I'm going to come to my stencil options here over in my properties. And I am going to select tiling to horizontal tiling, and that way I'll bring it right across. So what we want to do is we'll just give this a wee bit more room here, and we're just going to eyeball it as best we can. We'll maybe zoom this in a wee bit, so it looks a wee bit small, but that's okay. And now if we hold the S key on our keyboard, you'll see it brings up a few options what we can do here. If I hold my right mouse key, I can just zoom this in and out, make it a little bit bigger or smaller. I'm just going to eyeball it. It will be hard for you to see here on my screen. I apologize for that, but I'm making this bigger. I'm just trying to eyeball it to the surface underneath, and then I will just try to get that as close as possible. There we go, that's not too bad. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to give this some yellow stripes, so I'm going to set my I'm going to set my color, my base color, to a nice bright yellow. I also want it to be kind of shiny, so I'm going to set the roughness down lower than the base plastic would be. I don't need any metallic on it. But maybe just add a wee bit, just to give it a wee bit of zing, just the tiniest wee amount. Not physically accurate, but who cares? If we want, we can also add just the tiniest wee amount of height, and we're talking literally minor decimal points here, just so that that'll look like that's a kind of a sticker stuck on top. And what I want to do is, I don't want to be using this round soft brush because it'll be really hard to get nice crisp edges. So I'm going to go up to alpha here, and I'm just going to type in square, and if I scroll down, there's one here called square rectangle, and what's good about this is it means it just gives us a nice hard edge. If I zoom that up there, you'll see we get a nice hard edge on that. And now all I have to do is give a couple of clicks where I want it. I'm going to click right close to that, click right close to this edge, and then just fill in the blank space in between. And look at that, brilliant. So now I can turn my stencil off. All I need to do is hit that little X beside it. That'll remove the stencil, and you'll see it has left beside my my nice shiny stripes on there. I'm just holding Control and then my mouse wheel to make this brush bigger or smaller. So there we go. That is looking lovely. And I'm going to do something similar down here. I'm going to add just wee reflectors to the poles here. But a slightly better way to do this is not to do it on the mesh itself, but if we come over to our UV map. So I'm going to go to Stencil again, and I'm actually going to just choose that square. that same square that we're using for our brush, square rectangle. Now this wee technique is only going to work because my UV is lined up where both of these poles are perfectly vertical. So please bear that in mind. I've got this square stencil. I am going to adjust the balance here, put it all the way up to 1. So if it's a wee bit lower, you'll see the gaps between them. Put this all the way up to 1. It's going to fill that surface completely. And I just want to zoom in enough to give me what size I want that little stripe to be. So maybe a little bit bigger. You'll notice the stencil itself isn't changing size. It's only the UV itself. Whoops, no, we don't want to do that. So let me see. What button am I trying to do here? Yes, there we are. I can never remember the buttons. Okay, here we go. I'm still sticking with my square alpha. So I've got a square stencil, which is horizontally tiled all the way across. I've got a square alpha, and I'm now going to change some of these parameters. I'm going to set the base color to a grey, just a sort of an off-white. Height, we'll give it a wee bit of height. Again, just think it's like something sticking off there. Roughness, we want the roughness to be really low. We'll give it a wee touch more metallic here. Give it a wee bit more reflectiveness. And I'm just going to, paint over here. Now, watch what happens. Because this is a curved surface, you notice that it is adding paint to the right side where my brush isn't at. But that's simply because it is effectively painting on the mesh rather than the UV. And because it's a spherical shape or a cylindrical shape, it is adding that there. So paint that there. So you have to be careful when you're painting directly on your UV, because you're never actually painting directly on your UV, you're actually painting on the mesh. Okay, so a couple other wee bits we're going to do. I'm going to hold control and just make that a lot smaller. And I am going to just add a couple of wee stripes here as if a wee bit of detailing. I'm going to set my height up a wee bit higher. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click my mouse right up here near the top. And then I'm going to hold the Shift key. And you'll see this is for drawing straight lines. We've got a wee diagonal line here. And I want to just pull this across. And if I want to get it perfectly straight, I also want to hold the Control key. I'm just going to click that across, like so. And I'll do the same down the bottom. Click. Click, then hold Shift. Then also hold Control just to get a straight line. And there we are. It just adds, I'm going to turn, no, I'll leave that stencil on for now, even though it's a wee bit hard to see. I'll just pull that down there. Yes, we can see here we've got a nice wee stripe. But it's missed this wee bit here. I'm not sure why it's missed that, but it's okay. We can just paint over that. We'll bring it inside the stencil here. We can just manually eyeball that in. Not quite perfect, but good enough. I'm not sure why it does that. I'm not sure why it doesn't like that wee gap. Probably just because the UV chunks are too close together. But we'll just paint it in. That'll do lovely. Last wee thing I want to do then is go down to the middle. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to change my base colour. I'm going to add just a slight wee hint of blue to this. And I'm also going to touch my height and add a wee bit more height. And hold Control and mouse wheel just make it bigger. I'm just going to paint that in. I just think that extra wee bit of colour looks nice. Look at that, lovely. So now I'm just going to deactivate that stencil. You can just hit a little X over here. And look at that, isn't that wonderful? Oh, what has happened here? I have messed up my... I've somehow messed up my stripe. That's annoying. We'll need to come back and fix that. Again, as I said, when we're painting over this, we need to be careful because it can actually be painted over other areas of the mesh. How's my back looking? Back's looking okay. Yeah, that's very, very strange. That is very strange. Do you know what I might do? It might be very, very hard to actually get this perfect again. So I might actually, instead of trying to line this up, I might just lean into it, lean into the mistake, and just add another. me see, let's go to our alphas and let's turn this into what we'll call a happy little accident. And we will, let me see, what happens if I type in warning? Yeah, look at that, text warning. Maybe not warning, it's not quite a warning. What about caution? That's quite nice. We've got a little brush for the word caution there. We'll make it a bit bigger. And okay, we'll go to this. Our height, we don't want our height that big. We only had a little tiny bit of height. Roughness metallic, put the metallic down a bit for that. I'll just plunk that in there. Okay, so that wasn't originally intended to happen, but we'll just lean into it. And that still looks quite good. The only reason I can think of is while I'm painting this and painting on the UVs, it might have interpreted it as going over this surface. You just have to be careful, always check and look over yourself. I just didn't want to waste time there trying to make this fit perfectly because we are already on, Jesus, we're in 21 minutes. Okay, we're nearly done. Second last thing I want to do, add a little bit of texture to these guys here. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to come and look on the UV. I'm going to find a stencil again. Let me see, what kind of stencil do I want? That one's kind of cool, that one's kind of cool. None of them are exactly. I'm still looking at my squares. None of them are exactly perfect for what I want, but maybe this one's close enough. And what I'll do is I'll just zoom out a little bit there. Just enough to cover that little surface. And I'm going to set my brush not to have any color, so I don't want it to color it at all. So I'm going to deactivate my color. I'm going to deactivate my roughness, my metal and my normal. All I want to do is affect the height here. I want to add a little bit of height. And with my brush, I don't need that alpha. I'll maybe just get my little square back again. And make it a good bit smaller. And I'm just going to paint that over. So this is absolutely not the right texture to be using at all, but it will do. It will do. We should probably be using something a bit more like a horizontal stripe. And we'll just try and size that up about the same. And just paint that in there. Try to cover right down to the edges without touching anything else. And hopefully if I deactivate my stencil, I won't have messed anything else up. But I think that's looking pretty good. And if we rotate the light around that, the light will be reflecting off that. Where are we? Oops, where's our little model go? I've lost my model. No. There we go. F to focus. There we are. Okay, so we're nearly done. The last thing I want to do is just add a little bit of battering to this, make it look less pristine. So I'm going to add a dirt layer. I'm going to add a new blank layer. I'm going to call this dirt. And this one is easy enough to do. I might show you how to do it, then pause the video and just add a bit of dirt to this. I'm just going to select I'm going to add some color and roughness. Don't need metallic because it won't be metallic at all. A wee bit of height. So we're going to add some dirt to this. We'll add just the tiniest amount of height, barely perceptible at all. I want it to be rough because dirt is nice and rough. So we'll put the roughness up quite high for this. Base color, we're going to go for kind of a dirty brown. Something like that. There we go. And then we're going to go to our alphas, and you're just going to get creative with your alphas. If we remove that selection there, if we scroll through, we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got brush strokes, and there should be some dirt smears here, cracks. Where are we? Dirt, there we go. Dirt, smudges, dirt, cloudy, dirt spots. I'll use this dirt spots one, and if we look in, and I hold control and make this a bit bigger, if we just start painting that on, you can see we can add some dirt to our mesh. Now, really, you probably want to be adding this down low mainly, and you don't want to use the same alpha too much. So I'm going to put a few spots of this one in, maybe up a wee bit there. Just add a wee bit of dirt there. And the trick for this really is use your alphas sparingly and use different ones. So there's a wee bit of dirt there, and then I'll come in and choose back to my dirt layer, dirt cloudy maybe. That might be a bit harsh, a bit strong. Actually, it's not too bad. And you start building up those layers of dirt on your mesh. And you can change the color a wee bit as well. It will be good to do that. I'll make this maybe a bit bigger and turn the opacity down a bit, just for a more of a general kind of dusty kind of patina effect, just to get rid of that pristine whiteness there. There we are. And you'll see it's adding the dirt here as we go. And if we hold the, which one do we want? How do we rotate our brush again? Shift. No, it's not. I can never remember how to rotate the brush. Does it appear here? Ah, yes. Control and left click and drag. Just rotate your brush. It'll just help us to add a bit more variety to that, so the brush isn't always looking the same way. That's not too bad. As I say, you can detail that up on your own time, and keep working at it, keep using different alphas. I just want to kind of display the technique to you. Let's see, there's a couple of really nice sort of drips and things as well. So it can look as if, you know, bits of concrete or bits of whatever just drip down. You just rotate and position your brush accordingly. Put your opacity back up. There we go. Try and reposition that where it should be. There we go. Now you maybe don't want to do anything that's quite as deliberate as that drip there, because every time you repeat the mesh, it's going to have that same drip. So you maybe don't want anything too distinct actually. So let's see, I'll actually just erase that. Oh, that's a bit too big. Stroke opacity. I pull my opacity down and sort of tap it out and blend it in a wee bit better. That'll do. So this one. Okay, that'll more or less do. Is actually one last wee thing I want to do. I might just add in a little bolt here to hold this guy in. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I'll just make a new layer. I'll call this one bolt. And I want my alpha, well, quite a hard alpha here. It's just the regular circular alpha. I'm putting the hardness up. I'll make sure I'm on my brush tool first of all, not the eraser tool. I just want to play with the height on this one. I'll put the height way down. I'm going to turn my alpha off. And what is that one? I've lost my standard alpha, so I'm just going to pick this shape circle squeeze. Now the squeezed circle is kind of like an oval shape. We don't want an oval. I'm going to put it back up to circular, just be pulling that back up. And then just hold control to adjust my brush size. I'll just make a little bolt here. Try and get the size around about right. So I'm just going to bring the hardness down. I'll do the same over this other side. And I'm just eyeballing it here. Hopefully it's in the right place. I will bring my size down just a little bit. So control is going up too much and down too much. So I'm going to manually change this up here from 2.3 down to about 2. And that's probably okay. What I'm going to do is not play with the height, just play with the color. Get myself a nice silver here. And just pop in a, actually I will add a wee bit of roughness and metallic to this as well. Roughness down low, metallic up a bit higher. And we're not quite done with it yet, but you'll see why we have to swap it into these separate actions in a wee second. Now we are going to just go to our alpha, and there's a nice wee alpha here called Circle Plus. Kind of vaguely resembles a like a screw head. And with this one, we're going to put the height. We are going to use height on this one. I'm going to bring the height way up to get that kind of depth. The reason why I had to put in that wee silver bit first is you can see the kind of the hollow inside of this screw will just be leaving us with an orange background. But if we do this, there we are. Look at that. That looks lovely. Nice silver screw there. I'll just do the same thing over here. Nice silver screw. Now if I control Z, it's not quite positioned correctly. There we go. Isn't that fantastic? Now we're just saving. Hopefully that doesn't crash. There we go. Which reminds me, file, save. Should have done the 10-minute save rule there. We're up to about 25 minutes now. Access barrier, we'll call this one, we'll call this access barrier 2. There we go. And now really we would just export our textures. We could add a little bit more dirt and stuff there, but I'm happy enough with that. That's a nice little prop. That could be dropped in nicely into your game scenes. Maybe go back and change these. That texture isn't quite working for me, but if you just pick a different stencil that's more, maybe just a horizontal stripes or something like that would work a lot better. But to export this, after you save it, we're just going to go File, Export Textures, and we can click this open here and just show you what we're going to create. We've got our base color, roughness, metallic, normal, height, and emissive. That's all grand. Let me just close this down a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Here, this button is where we can export. We just click on that and it'll tell us where we're going to export to. So we just pick your location on your computer and then just hit the export button down here is all you have to do. And that will give you out your textures. We have them saved as PNGs. And that'll be your image files ready to take into your game engine. So I'm not going to do that now. I think I might actually play with this a wee bit more before I export them. Fix a few wee things, play with the dirt. You can see there already, this dirt is kind of the same alpha was used, it's repeating over and over again. So I'm going to go back and fix that. But that's us effectively done. Really, when you get to the Substance Painter page, just use your own artistic license with it. Try and think logically, where should the dirt be? Don't have it repeating over and over again. Get clever with your metallics and your roughnesses and things like that. And yeah, just have fun with it and get it looking right, and then export and test it out in your game engine. I'm going to leave it here because I'm rambling now. We're up to 35 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave a comment down below, any suggestions or any questions, and I will see you next time for the next tutorial. Thank you very much, guys.